Everyone. Does that need to be any louder? Okay, sorry. Hello everyone. Some of you I can still see up on the screen, and it's a little bit like romper room. So, you know, hello to Sandra, hello to Julietta. You guys can stay on if you want, but yeah, it was a little bit like the romper room show when I was seeing everybody up there. Anyway, welcome and thank you for joining us today. Trevor tells me there's 32 people watching online, which is sometimes a better turnout than we actually get to our regular AGMs. So next year, I'd like to see all of you back out here in person. We're pleased everyone could be here and to help us celebrate the year that was and where we're headed next. And then we're also going to take care of the legal stuff that's required to do every time at this year. I'm Jen Schmidt-Rempel, the current board chair and president of Economic Development Lethbridge. Just as a reminder, only current board members, so those that were ratified at last year's AGM, are eligible to vote until we ratify the new board members. For the voting, what I would ask those who are here to do is to raise your hand, but for those that are watching us live online, is to please say no. So I'm not going to ask for somebody to approve. I'm going to ask if there's anybody who has any objections. So if you say no, and please do speak up, let us know, and that's how we'll carry this. New board members can vote after your ratified. Information packages were provided to you by email as well as in person here. So let's get started. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the agenda as presented in the meeting package? And does anybody have any questions, concerns, or additions? Could I please have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make that motion. Sandra from the college.
Sandra, okay, seconder. And I've got Chris here. Anybody opposed? So that's carried. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes from the 2018 AGM? Does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns, changes, or anything like that? Could I please have a motion to accept the minutes from the 2018 AGM? Sandra, could I get a seconder on that? Brad? Anybody opposed? All right, moving forward. So as reflected in our mission statement, EDL plays a key role in our city, both as a leader in economic development and setting the tone for positive growth. We're proactive and always looking forward. We initiate, that is to say, we start projects and programs without being asked to do so, and we recognize gaps in our community and move forward and find ways to fill those gaps. We facilitate and we connect people together to help solve problems. As board members, we are advocates for our community. Our job is governance to help fulfill our mission as outlined on the previous slide without getting bogged down in the day-to-day operations of the organization. We did a lot throughout 2019. It was a very busy year. The staff team attended a number of conferences, engaged with many different audiences, and ensured Lethbridge was visible in the right industry publications. On the screen are a few examples of infographics and ads used at some of the conferences and events we attended and sponsored over the past year. Remember that EDL's key role is to market Lethbridge to external audiences, and that is to raise the profile of the community in other places, so that Lethbridge becomes top of mind to investors and to others who are looking for a place to set up shop. The EDL team stayed focused on the priorities of our business plan, supporting investment into key sectors such as value-added agri-food, supply chain and logistics, while also looking to support existing businesses, expand and grow. We saw a 10% conversion ratio on landed inquiries, which is consistent with our historical record, or our historical trends and records. We saw higher than average job creation numbers, but lower than average total investment values. Each year is dynamic, and we do expect to see these fluctuations. We're fortunate to have many partners in our region, including the Regional Innovation Network of Southern Alberta, or RINSA, and many others who help us deliver programs and services to entrepreneurs. Our focus is on early stage entrepreneurs, especially through incubation services at Tech Connect, And we do work to support all other entrepreneurs through the many classes and programs that we offer. Tech Connect was busy throughout the year and has exceeded the outcomes contemplated by the board when the project was first proposed. We've seen tremendous job creation and new business development coming from the program. In fact, we are now at 100% occupancy and have begun a wait list for new clients to join our incubator community. The key driver back in 2008 and 2009, when this idea was contemplated, was to ensure opportunities in Lethbridge for our grads and drive retention of the young talent in our city, and we've certainly achieved and exceeded that. Tech Connect is also much more than an incubator. It's a hub for our entrepreneurs, not just our incubator clients. In 2019, we hosted 66 entrepreneurial workshop and events through its Alberta Entrepreneurship Incubator, RINSA, and Western Economic Development Women in STEM programs, which served over 950 attendees. Tech Connect also enrolled 110 unique clients into our entrepreneur program and provided 104 hours of advisory services across 94 different coaching sessions. We were also recognized for best practices in 2019 by Economic Developers Association of Canada, winning national recognition for brand identity from the workaround development and initial implementation of the Brighter Together community brand. Mark and Trevor accepted the award at the September EDAC National Conference, and here they are. EDL's Mike Proku was recognized by the Lethbridge Chamber of Commerce as their Volunteer of the Year for his many community activities, and it's important to recognize that we're fortunate to have a staff team that engages their work as well as their community. We're also fortunate to have staff that are willing to forego their own birthday to attend this AGM. Do we have Brian? Is Brian online?
Brian is online, I believe.
Brian is online. Well, if everybody had been here, we were going to sing happy birthday to Brian, but Brian's not here and I am not singing alone. And happy birthday, Brian. You don't want to hear me sing. All right. Thank you. Our CEO, Trevor Lewington, received recognition from his peers as Economic Developers Alberta selected him for their top honors as the 2019 Economic Developer of the Year. Trevor also received an honorary doctorate for the work he does with the US and Mexican governments. So we appreciate his leadership to our organization in our community, and he just makes the rest of us look bad. But thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
You're awesome. We were able to support 55 businesses and community leaders as participants in the 6th Team Lethbridge mission to Edmonton, which represented 22 different partner organizations. The Team Lethbridge trip was positively received by the new government and described by participants as the most successful mission so far. And here we have MLA Neudorf with Agriculture and Forestry Minister Devin Dreeshan joining the Farmer Smarter Field Day that was down here in Southern Alberta. But our work wouldn't be near as successful as it is without the help of our partners, and you can find a full list in our review booklet, which will also be uploaded to our website. It is with the collaboration of these organizations that we are able to attract the investment we do and what makes our city an excellent place to live, learn, invest, visit, and do business. Thank you to our partners. We also could not do the work we do without the dedicated members who volunteer their time to serve on our board, some also working on various committees, attending community events, and supporting the many projects EDL undertakes. Fun fact, there were just over 3,001 volunteer hours contributed to this organization in 2019. Tonight, we're celebrating the board members who have served out their terms. And we don't have anybody here to accept their gifts. So I am taking them all home with me. But I would like to recognize for the construction sector, Rich Thiessen, finance sector, Jason Sentes, U of L, Erasmus O'Keen, and past president, Bill Spenceley. And thank you to myself as current president. It's just, you know, it's National Awkward Moments Day, and this is it. Thank you. So thank you to everybody who has served on EDL and all of our outgoing members. I'd now like to invite Chris Stasiak forward to offer a few remarks as our Secretary Treasurer.
Thanks, Jen.
I'm pretty excited to usher in always the most anticipated part of every meeting is the financial review. So just a couple of highlights on our financials for the year. So as you can see, we had a much better than planned. We had approved for the 2019 year to run a deficit budget and to draw from some funds that we have allocated for that. But with the great work of our staff, we were actually able to realize a surplus rather than the fairly hefty deficit we were looking at. And once we get to the auditors, they'll highlight that. Additionally, the board approved some capital improvements to the Technic building, and the organization leveraged some grants to further those along and did a great job. Thank you, Trevor. Additionally, the team continues to find and leverage grants and other sources of funding. They were given the mandate to leverage 55 cents on the dollar and did a fairly impressive $1.17 leveraging on the funds. So great job, Trevor and team. Additionally, the last year, where we saw not as much revenue generated, we did see a lot more jobs created. So less of a direct impact and more a less measurable jobs created. But we were still able to deliver an impact of 80 to 1. So that is, for every $1 received of municipal funding, we were able to turn it into 80 measurable dollars. Worth noting is we don't measure the indirect, induced, or other impact numbers, only that which we can clearly measure and prove out. So over the last 8 years, the team has been able to deliver, on average, $246 for every $1 of municipal spending, or municipal contribution, sorry. So next is a review of the audited financials. Sean's going to do that remotely. So board members, you were either received, if you braved the pandemic to be here, or by email, a copy of the financials. So I will encourage anyone, if you have questions, to speak up. I'm sure Sean would love to talk about the financials for as long as he can. One point to note is this is not just an annual process. The financials are reviewed by the executive each month, and then by the board as a whole. So there's not a lot of surprises. We do monitor these monthly. So after this point, I will turn it over to Sean. Sean, you can turn on your camera if you want to speak to us and see us.
All right. Does that work? Does that, can you hear me? I hope this is working.
We can hear you, Sean, sorry.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Thank
Hear and see.
First time I've tried it this way. We've got to talk a lot about financial statements over the last few years, but this is the first time by remote. But we really do appreciate the opportunity to work with the association, you know, to help you with your audit. The staff from the organization there is always very helpful as we go through the audit, which makes our process go a lot easier when we have our questions answered in a timely manner and the information that we're looking for is organized and available. That's some of the main things that we need to go through the audit. We again found that this year, and we appreciate all the help there. To kind of just review the audit process and the audit report that is being pulled up there now. A little bit, I'll just kind of go through the audit report because it explains the components of the audit for both our responsibilities and the organization. But to start with, the first paragraph of the audit report, there is our opinion. And it identifies that the year is December 31st, 2019. So these numbers are all as of the year end. And then our opinion paragraph, it's the second part of that, which indicates that in all material respects, the financial position of the organization and the results of their operations are consistent with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. That, in a nutshell, is a clean audit opinion, which is what organizations want for their financial statements. It basically means that the information provided, the financial statements provided by management have been audited and assessed, and we're able to attach our audit opinion. A couple of the other components of this audit report, the basis of the opinion paragraph, that indicates that we just follow our audit standards as required by our handbook. The next section outlines the responsibilities of management. A reminder that these financial statements are not our, as auditors, financial statements, they're the organization's. Now, as we go through the audit, as we close the end of the audit, we do help prepare the financial statements for the organization. These financial statements in draft format are reviewed by management. And then we also meet with the finance committee to go over those statements. After that, these statements are accepted by the organization. We then conclude our audit and date our audit report. The next section there outlines our various responsibilities, which is to do our due diligence and follow our audit standards to do the audit. And then we sign and date our audit report. So that is the excitement of an auditor, all condensed into 2 pages. Just to kind of briefly cover a few components of the financial statements, just because we like numbers, but just a reminder that these are the organization's financial numbers. They're on the statement of financial position. It lists the assets and liabilities. Overall, the current asset position of 684, including cash and GICs, which is the bulk of that provides some current resources to operate into the next period. This is offset or related to, under the current liabilities, $344,000. That represents grants that have been received for projects that have not been incurred yet, that will be incurred in the coming year, which is the main reason for the cash position. So it kind of shows that there are some ongoing projects that have been funded by grants, and there's cash available to continue those. Overall, a favorable working capital position. There's cash available to meet the current needs of the organization. If we turn to the next 2 pages, the statement of operations. This summarizes the receipts and expenditures for the year, showing regular funding from the city is fairly even, and then we also get some program funding, and this is the increase in grants for the year. Overall, $2 million worth of revenue coming in that helped fund the total expenditures of almost $2 million down below, which does result in a current year net income of $51,000, which is, as discussed earlier by Chris, that it depends on the functions and goals of the organization. But if we're just looking year over year, there was a loss last year, which is now funded by some income this year, which is not unusual for many not-for-profits. So overall, our audit went well. We, again, appreciate all the help that we had there to do the audit. We're confident that if any information or additional questions about these numbers are available, that the accounting records are reliable and can be relied on to provide that detail as far as what is included in any of these numbers. So we thank you for this opportunity, and if you have any questions, let us know.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions at all? So no questions. Could I please have a motion to accept the financials as presented? Chris, could I have a seconder? Brad? Is anybody opposed? That motion is carried. The Finance Committee is recommending, oops. Oh, okay. Where are we at, Trevor? The Finance Committee is recommending that the board reappoint Mercer Wild as our auditor due to their continued excellent service, competitive pricing, and intimate knowledge of the Tech Connect project. Could I please have a motion to appoint Mercer Wild Group as our auditor for 2020? Any? Sandra, seconder? Mark? Is there anybody opposed? All right, that's carried. So moving on to our 2020 Board of Directors. Thank you to Christine, Kathleen, Sandra, Robert, Kevin, and Brad, who've completed their initial 2-year term and weren't scared off and have agreed to serve an additional 2-year term. I wish you good luck with that. Well, I can't have our new board members stand. I was going to do that. But I would like to welcome Terry, Melissa, Jen, who's joining us here today, Diana, Peter, Carrie, Timothy, and Ian, who has also joined us here today. And everybody else who's online. Okay. Hey, guys. Thank you for joining us. You can check all the bios for all of our new board members in the meeting package for everyone's reference. And I would encourage reporting board members to connect with their replacement to impart their wisdom. We have Rich Thiessen online. I think he should impart a lot of wisdom to different people, but he's not there, is he? Yeah, let's spam him. All right. The following seats will remain vacant for now: the airport sector, construction sector, pending the LCA AGM, the education sector, there's a discussion going on with that right now, and sector at large. The list of proposed board members for 2020 is captured in Appendix 1 of the meeting package. Could I please have a motion to ratify the Board of Directors? Brad?
I'll second that.
And that was Sandra? Okay. Yep. Is there anybody opposed? That motion is carried. And new board members, you are now able to make motions and vote and join us. If you're, well, you're already here, but anyway, you're already free to talk now. Thank you to everyone who has put their names forward to serve on the 2020 Officers and Executive Committee. Can't have you stand either. But thank you for your time and commitment to this organization. So thank you to Sandra, Mayor Chris Spearman, Chris Stasiak, Robert Kimmenberg, Adriana Mercander, Jamie, and Trevor, who is staying on as well. Yay. The list of proposed officers and executive committee members for the 2020 is captured in Appendix 2 of the meeting package. Could I please have a motion to ratify the officers and executive committee? Let's get somebody. Who's that?
Michelle.
Michelle, can I get a seconder online? Come on, everybody, don't speak at once. Just need one of you. Cindy. Cindy? All right. Is there anybody opposed? That motion is carried. On to our standing committees. Just to mention, we do have a number of standing committees, and if you're interested, to please let us know. And now I get to hand this over to our new president, Sandra Mintz. Thank you very much, everyone.
Hello, everyone. I want to take a second to thank Jen. Jen has done a wonderful job as president for Economic Development Lethbridge for 2 years, not 1, but 2 years. And that's not a usual occurrence. The reason why that happened is Jen gave me an extra year so that I could get my organization through a gigantic reaccreditation. And in retrospect now, as I step up during a worldwide pandemic, I'm thinking I would have been better off to have sucked it up and performed these duties last year. That's a joke. I'm honored to serve. I'd also like to thank Sean and Mercer Wild. Sean, that was a riveting walk through our financial statements. And I do want to say that you are providing an essential public service, truly. It is essential that the public have confidence in the stewardship of the resources that are entrusted to Economic Development Lethbridge. So thank you very much, Sean and Mercer Wild. At this time, I'll introduce myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Sandra Mintz. I currently work as the Chief Executive Officer for Lethbridge Family Services, who is Lethbridge's 10th largest employer with 380 staff, currently serving, and I mean currently, 7,200 clients throughout Lethbridge and surrounding communities in 4 main service areas of home health care services, services for immigrants and refugees, services for persons with disabilities, and counseling and psychological services. Needless to say, we are very busy at this time, and we are also honored to serve. I am also a born and raised Southern Alberta gal, but I was also one of those young people who left Lethbridge and didn't come back for quite some time. And that's something that I would certainly like to see change. I moved to Edmonton as a young lady to go to the University of Alberta to pursue a credential that wasn't available in Lethbridge at the time, speech language pathology. As it turns out, I changed directions once I got up there into business administration, but nonetheless, my intention to come back to Lethbridge for life after I completed some education got sidetracked as I met and married a born and raised Edmontonian. And we had 2 sons, born and raised Edmontonians. And throughout the years, as we would come down to Lethbridge for Thanksgiving and Christmas, my husband fell in love with Lethbridge. And every time we would come down to Lethbridge and go back up to Edmonton, he would say to me with more vigor every year, Sandy, when we retire, we need to retire to Lethbridge. Having been born and raised in Edmonton, he was thoroughly done with the big city traffic and the big city crime and all of the other things that go along with a big city. And every year as we would travel down to Lethbridge, as we started to get south of Calgary, we would get away from the snowdrifts that start in Edmonton and build right through April and don't ever leave until around April. And just started to fall in love with the size of Lethbridge, with the reasonable traffic, with the really cool and amazing restaurants and shops. And of course, we have our world-class university and college, and more industries all the time, and more prospects all the time. And we really saw a future for our sons in Lethbridge. Our plans to move to Lethbridge got speeded up significantly as he became terminally ill. And while we probably would have retired in Lethbridge, we moved that move up considerably in 2008 to be closer to my family. And it was one of the best things we ever did. Our sons now see Lethbridge as a place that they want to settle down, set down roots, and raise their families and stay for life. And in fact, there is no shortage of opportunity for the 2 of them. My oldest, at the ripe age of 23, has already completed his Red Seal ticket in machining and his first year on a second ticket as a millwright. And there's nothing but opportunity for him here. My youngest son is just embarking on his career path as a paramedic. And again, there is nothing but opportunity for him here. And I do have to say that when we moved back to Lethbridge, as we had become accustomed to world-class medicine through the University Hospital in Edmonton, the Cross Cancer Institute, the Foothills, we found the healthcare in Lethbridge to be equally first-rate at the Lethbridge Regional Hospital, at the Jack Addy Cancer Center, and as well at St. Michael's. So very proud to be a part of this community, and I'm especially proud to serve Economic Development Lethbridge. I would like us to continue to grow opportunities for young people to stay in Lethbridge, not go away and potentially never come back, or for it to take 20 years before they find their way back. So as we work together, I know we can achieve that. There's lots to be excited about as we look forward to the year ahead. There is no greater time for an organization dedicated to economic development Lethbridge. As we face this pandemic, this worldwide pandemic, our work is cut out for us. We have much great work to build upon in economic development Lethbridge. We know that part of building community and indeed living our Brighter Together community brand means supporting underrepresented groups. And this is work that I'm passionate about every day. For example, Tech Connect has been working hard to build partnerships with groups like Alberta Business Link, as well as the Treaty 7 Resources Group, to build and support business programs and services. In 2019, we saw the first 6 months of a 3-year program with Western Economic Diversification for Women in STEM, Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, an initiative EDL will be building momentum on as we move forward. Economic inclusion has many different aspects to it, and economic development Lethbridge must ensure we are finding ways for all to prosper. I'm excited to see these programs achieve critical mass in 2020. As we build upon the 2019 launch of our community brand, Brighter Together, there is an opportunity to engage all of our partners in 2020 to bring together a cohesive message about the amazing things happening in Lethbridge. The Downtown BRZ is moving forward with a new brand that leverages elements of our Brighter Together community brand. The Allied Arts Council and the City of Lethbridge corporate communications team, to name a few, have also begun to explore how to incorporate themes, color, and other elements of our community brand. All EDL board members and our partners can be ambassadors for our Brighter Together brand themes and help to shape the narrative of Lethbridge going forward. Our collective strength, together with the many assets Lethbridge has to offer, will propel us to shine brighter together. Since 2008, Economic Development Lethbridge has spearheaded vital government relations under the auspices of Team Lethbridge and its 22 member organizations and 65 participating community leaders. Through dedicated meetings with ministers, senior ministry staff, and opposition politicians in Edmonton, we elevate the assets, strengths, and attributes of Lethbridge. We enhance awareness and appreciation for the value Lethbridge generates. We convey our appreciation for investment and funding in Lethbridge. We increase Lethbridge's inclusion and participation in strategic government decision-making, and we build relationships and opportunities between Team Lethbridge partners ourselves. Together, we must continue to build these positive relationships with the provincial government and ensure we align with provincial priorities and strategies. We must do that in the spirit of partnership. We will continue to advocate strongly and constructively for our community as we engage in this positive dialogue with our provincial politicians and leaders. As we move forward in the year ahead and in exceptionally dynamic and changing times, it will be more important than ever to maintain our focus on our business plan and our strategic priorities. There will be new opportunities ahead that we can play a vital role in supporting through the rich ecosystem that is economic development in Lethbridge, playing a vital role in post-pandemic recovery and continued, dedicated, and concerted economic development. At this time, let us take a moment to recognize a Brighter Together success story. At last year's AGM, we were pleased to hear from Rick Johnson of Autovance Technologies, who talked about his journey as an entrepreneur working from his kitchen to being in our Tech Connect incubator and then being acquired. He talked about how EDL and the support he received was key to the success of his local company and his growth in hiring over 11 employees. This year, we are pleased to share another success story. Many of you will already be familiar with MOCHA Cabana, a local bistro favorite that showcases locally sourced foods and ingredients. In fact, we're fortunate to have them here to cater our meeting this evening. And indeed, those of us in person today look forward to enjoy what they have to offer. Angel and Jacqueline worked with Tech Connect, Rinsa, and have been working on the next phase of their empire, home delivery of meal kits. Let's learn a bit more about their journey with MOCHA Local.
Have you ever tasted fresh milk right out of the cow? It's weird, it's warm, but really delicious. I don't know if you'll use that. Okay, onion. We put all our tables together and we assembled all the recipe kits that we're going to be shipping out today and tomorrow. Mondays, all the farmers and producers deliver to us as the orders are coming in, and especially the fresh items. We portion and separate into recipe bins so that we're ready to assemble the next morning. The very first thing we do is get the boxes ready that we're going to be shipping. Then the next step is getting all the recipes assembled. So guys, we're about 20 minutes from the driver being here, so we gotta pick up our game and get going.
I'm Angel,
And I'm Jacqueline.
and we're just a couple of farm girls who started MOCHA Local. We grew up on farms. I'm usually so good at this. You're jinxing me. Our community in Lethbridge know Jacqueline and I very well. We own one of the top restaurants in Lethbridge. It's called MOCHA Cabana Bistro. It's a farm-to-table restaurant where we already had so many relationships established with local producers and farmers. Our mission at our restaurant's always been to nourish and sustain our community, and it's been really easy to transfer those values over to our expansion with MOCHA Local. MOCHA Local is an online meal kit delivery service and also an online farmers market. What sets us apart from our competitors is that we truly are locally sourced. With our meal kits and our farmers market items, we give you the story to the food. We celebrate farmers. When I went to culinary school in the 80s, the dream when you become a chef is always to own your own restaurant someday. Never, as life goes on and, I'm managing hospitals and doing different things, it was not even on my radar. Jacqueline used to be my customer when I was in the corporate world, and we became friends. And I said, there's this little restaurant. I've always thought, it'd be fun to own one, but I wouldn't want to do it by myself. This is something that I would want to do with somebody that I trust in business. One night I got a text, I probably still have it on my phone, and it was something about, we'll have to change the color of the walls. And that was her way of telling me, let's do it. I couldn't believe it. Working with Jacqueline, she's become my best friend, my soul sister. I call her my work wife. I couldn't imagine doing this with anyone else. Between Jacqueline and I, we have over 50 years experience in food service. And I would say what we've seen in the last 5 years has been the biggest changes. Skip the Dishes or Uber Eats, they've taken a huge chunk out of the restaurant business. There's less people dining out, but it's what the public wants. And I'm going to be honest, I've used it at home. It changes how we conduct our business. So we really thought that perhaps we could go into prepared meals. Because we hadn't started anything from the ground up before, either of us ever, I took advantage through TechConnect and Economic Development Lethbridge to take some of the workshops that they offer for entrepreneurs. And that was probably the best experience I ever did.
So TechConnect was started in 2010 and was an idea that was born through the Economic Development Lethbridge Board of Directors. So at that time, there was stimulus funding available through the federal government to build an incubator. And we felt that that was an opportunity to diversify the economy in Lethbridge to include technology.
At first, I didn't know what TechConnect was, right? Going to this course out in Timbuktu, right? Like you're driving, it feels like you're driving out of Lethbridge. So I'm remembering my first time there. What I knew of TechConnect then was it was partnered by economic development or run by economic development. I wasn't sure, but what I did know for sure was that it was resources for entrepreneurs or people who want to become entrepreneurs to test and validate and get support for their business ideas.
Angel and Jacqueline came to an entrepreneurship workshop that we were doing. We were looking to provide the entrepreneurs in the community with some startup information of how to actually look at their business differently using the business model canvas and the value proposition design. One day we got talking and I said, hey, you know, I've been doing these food kits. And have you looked at those as being part of the farmer's market? And she goes, food kits, what are those?
And I thought, well, this is really interesting. So I came back and I told Jacqueline about it. And she was like, yeah, I've heard about this Blue Apron in the States. It's really huge out there. So we started researching and we thought, let's order some. We tried them all. And through that, we found out we really liked meal kits in our busy lives. It really made cooking dinner easier.
And she came back and went, I think this could really work. I was so excited for her, and that was exactly how we wanted our entrepreneurial ecosystem to work, right?
The best way to describe Renee is that she's a conduit. She's always connecting people to the resources or to other people that they need on their entrepreneurial journey. And she's almost like a counselor in that she doesn't tell you what to do, she helps you find your own answer, and that's huge.
So I think having MOCHA Local come to the market was quite a journey. And it really did start in that first entrepreneurship program as just an idea.
What we want to resonate with people is that they're getting farm fresh ingredients, that they're getting local products, that there's a story to the food. It's so important that we know where our food is coming from. It's so important if we say that $1 here supports at least 5 businesses, that people can identify those businesses.
Other food kits that I would have tried weren't fresh and were traveling a long way and had a really big carbon footprint, which bothered me. I thought that this idea, I wouldn't be the only one thinking that way, that this would be a really good alternative for our community and enhancing the market for our local producers.
So we tried the products, we researched it, we continued to take courses. We literally got to a point where after 7 months of research and working on this with advisors from TechConnect, that it was, do we go forward or not? And that's when we flipped the switch and decided to move forward. And then that's when the real work started. Developing recipes and writing recipes was really easy for us. We are both culinary trained. We've been, like I said, doing this for 50 years. I can cook like nobody's business. But the technology piece has been definitely the biggest learning curve for us.
With the workshop development pieces that we were providing for them, as well as the business advisors that they had access to, we also brought in other consultants for them to meet with. Like, for example, when they were trying to do their website, we had a software expert that could come in and help advise them of how to manage a programmer and then what other kind of programs they might want to investigate. So we would bring in specialized help for them that they wouldn't even know how to access.
The biggest challenge with MOCHA Local has been getting the store up and running and being user-friendly, and there's still so many tweaks to do. I think we're not even a year fully to the public yet. I'm very happy with where we're at, but it hasn't been without some huge bumps on the road, and that has definitely been one of them. Right now, the experience is they go onto the online store. They can choose from the meal kits, which we have offerings of recipes for 2 or recipes for 4.
So I have a system, so every Monday I'm on there looking at what's the latest menu items. So I go on, it's a beautiful website, you get to pick out the food, and then I go over to the farmer's market and pick out a few items over there that I'd like to have. I can get some fresh cheese, I can, some really nice fresh sour cream, or
meat, produce, grains, and cheesecake, of course. We have some of our MOCHA made items available on the farmer's market. Then the customer can choose if they want to pick it up or if they'd like it delivered.
Sometimes I forget what's coming next, and I'm delighted to come home on a Wednesday and there's a box waiting for me going, oh, I wonder what I wish for myself this week.
And they open them up. We want them to be wowed with the freshness of the food. And then, of course, when they go to make the meals, the ease of the recipes, the portion, the taste, the quality, and that are all things that we've gotten great positive feedback on.
I love the pork dishes, and that it's the best pork I've ever tasted.
All of our packaging we've tried to source is compostable and minimal recyclable. This is a cellulose lining. It's completely compostable. Actually, if you compost, the bacteria that makes compost eats all the food and turns it into compost. They love this. We took it a step further. We're actually picking up customers' used packaging when we deliver every week, so the customer doesn't have to worry about filling up their blue recycling bin.
So our network of support, helping them develop and grow as entrepreneurs is part of what we do. And they're just a really good example of entrepreneurs that follow through on what it is that we can offer. So we work as hard as the entrepreneur to what their commitment is. We're there every step of the way. Tech Connect continues to evolve and move with the community as it grows and meets the needs of those emerging entrepreneurs and those entrepreneurs that are in business already and need that help to expand or scale their operations.
The longer I spent there, the more I just felt like I needed to stand on the top of a building and yell to everybody, do you know what we have in Lethbridge? It's phenomenal, the resources that are in Tech Connect. It has been amazing. Alberta's always been a province and a community that is really proud. We always unite and we support each other, and that's why we feel we can be really successful with our brand of MOCHA Local. We're going to Tabor, we're going to as far west as Pincher Creek now, and we are just launching in the next few weeks, delivering to Medicine Hat.
They're now really in full commercialization. They're starting to move it forward, and they've actually done it in a very rapid way, and I think that has a lot to do with their perseverance and their determination and hard work to do that. I also think the supports that are around them have also helped them do that as well.
One thing I love about Lethbridge, and not just being a business, is that people come together. And there's this saying about we're brighter together, and it's so true. I'm partnered with so many businesses downtown where we support each other. There's so many opportunities to be included in Lethbridge. It's amazing.
So one of my phrases that I use for the entrepreneurs I work with is ask for what you need and we will find it. And that's true for all entrepreneurs. So ask for what you need and then go achieve your dream.
So if you're listening to this right now and you've been thinking about trying MOCHA Local, or this video has piqued your interest, you need to try MOCHA Local. It's amazing. Looking forward to seeing your orders.
Angel and Jacqueline, wow, that was fantastic. Thank you for supporting our local farmers and bringing such fresh food to our community, and for being bold and brave with your business idea. And I think you better brace for impact, because I really do think that home meals like this in this current environment is going to explode.
I know I'm not part of the meeting, but we were talking about what's happened in the last week, right? If we didn't have MOLA, we would probably, I don't know, that we're waiting for this aid.
No one online can hear you.
We're going to give Angel a chance to say a few words here. Special guest.
I just think what's going on right now in our world with the pandemic, and my past life was in healthcare, managing small hospitals and support services. So I was very much part of disaster planning. So I'm looking at, like, people are going out. Our restaurant has gone down 95%. We're not even sure we're going to keep it open for during this period. But what's going on with MOLO is crazy. Now, you know, we are still just a startup, so these numbers are small compared to what we do in the restaurant. But for example, last week, the orders were $3,000. We've already surpassed that, and we're only on Wednesday. So usually the end of the week is my busiest spending. It's going crazy online, and the reason this is happening is because of social distancing, people not wanting to go out. And I think that not everybody is as passionate about supporting local. We see everybody saying support local businesses, but they don't know how to do that. And having grown up on a farm and been raised in a community where we support each other, it is so great. I'm going to cry right now. It's so great that we have landed a platform where people are able to do that. Every order supports 5 or 6. Sorry, it's so hard right now. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and everybody in economic development. So many of you in this room and online have been part of our journey, and we're very grateful for that. Sorry.
Angel, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We wish you every success, and you'll make it. Yes. I do want to encourage board members, if you get a chance, take a closer look at Tech Connect and take advantage of opportunities to get to know what it is that we do here. It is very, very cool. Last year, a couple of my staff and I took a series of courses on blockchain. I didn't know anything about blockchain. The courses were fantastic. We learned so much. It changed my way of thinking about so many things, so many business-related issues in this time of exponential growth in technology. So if you get a chance, really, take a look at Tech Connect, take a course, and you'll be amazed. I'm excited to work with each of you in the year ahead and the things that we're going to achieve being brighter together. At this time, I'd like to call on our CEO extraordinaire and one of our greatest assets, Mr. Trevor Lewington. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sandra, and thanks to everybody for staying with us online and also here in the room. I did have, of course, a whole presentation about our business plan, what's happening in the markets, what's going on in the economy. Some of you received that earlier. Pretty much throw that out because the world has shifted in the last 72 hours. So instead, I'll just take a few minutes to give you an update on where we're at. So beginning last Thursday, the organization implemented its business continuity plan. So the board has every year for the last 3 years approved an update to the business continuity plan. I'm very grateful that we had one. We literally pulled that off the shelf, flicked a couple of switches. Our entire team is now working from home, so both Tech Connect and our downtown office are closed to the public. Building tenants here can, of course, come in. They have access, but we are not staffing the building. So we will continue to do building walkthroughs for insurance purposes, but basically the phone lines are forwarded to our staff, cell phones as appropriate, and we do have a number of checks in place. So that's important. We have enabled remote access systems to our servers where appropriate. And we are also conducting a 2:30 p.m. video conference every day. I firmly believe that working from home is great from a medical social distancing perspective, but not awesome for humans who like to interact socially anyway. So we do have a video conference every day at 2:30 just to ensure the team stays connected, reviews the items for today. But again, that keeps our people safe. It does fulfill our obligations. The province has asked people to work from home where possible, and we can do that with our entire organization. We are still working, we are still serving clients, we're taking emails, we're taking phone calls. Really nothing has changed. We'll continue to work hard, but we're going to do that in a way that keeps our people safe and contributes to public safety. We have postponed or suspended all of our public events, so there are no meetings, no training courses, nothing happening physically here at Tech Connect. But as you're all experiencing the video broadcast system, again, an investment that was made this year that the board approved through a number of different grant programs, we literally can turn on this system. And so all of our training programs will be broadcasting from this very spot. It'll look very much like what you're experiencing today. With the chat function, with audio capabilities, people can participate in programs. We can still have business advisors meeting with clients one-on-one. We're still able to provide all of the services and programs that we have in the past. It just looks a little bit different. And in case it isn't obvious, there'll be no travel by any EDL staff member anywhere for any reason until this crisis passes. So that's kind of where we're at as an organization. Moving forward, we will be making some investments in our stable of business advisors. We do have some funds that we can allocate out of our WINSA contract. We also have some funds inside of our STEM grant to support women in particular. And we have actually a large stable of volunteers who in the past have come forward to act as advisors and support entrepreneurs without any pay at all. So we will be making sure we have lots of advisors to help. We will be continuing to work with Economic Developers of Alberta. I think most people know that I'm on the board of that particular organization. EDA has a number of disaster recovery programs that they provide. So we're working with them to deploy provincial best practices and deploy some of those resources into our community. And I will explain the model in just a moment. We are also going to map out potential live broadcasts and other events. So the Chamber of Commerce, for example, is working very hard on a number of policy positions. So I think there's an opportunity for us to leverage our technology perhaps to help them get the word out and to work in continuous partnership with them. Community Futures Lethbridge, I know Darlene's on the line today, another important partner, particularly when it comes to lending and other services. So we'll continue to work with all of our partners and try and figure out how we can best support the community. And although we have a key strategic plan and we will stay focused on our strategic plan, we want to make sure that we deliver on the objectives that we've mapped out. Clearly things have changed. There are new priorities. So as most of you know, there is an unprecedented public health crisis that has resulted in the forced closure of many businesses. And a heartfelt message from Angel already, even those businesses that are open are forced to stay open at reduced capacities. We've seen at least $7 trillion eliminated from global liquidity markets in the last couple of days, and I think we actually added to that total today. Long story short, there are significant financial pressures in the market. Travel restrictions, I think everybody's aware of the border closures today. Unfortunately, the Chief Medical Officer of Health's broadcast was moved to 4:30, so as we've been talking, new restrictions have been rolled out today, and also this afternoon, the City of Lethbridge declared a local state of emergency. So there continues to be escalation. The information we've been provided with is that Alberta is not expected to see a peak in the infection rate for another 2 weeks, potentially longer. So for at least the next 2 weeks, aggressive public health measures will hopefully contain the peak. We still haven't reached peak. And then of course, once we hit that in 2 weeks, there are many, many, many weeks that will follow as that rate comes back down. So the long story short is all of these restrictions, all of these impacts that we're talking about are about months, not weeks. And I think that's starting to settle in for a lot of people. So I met today with a group of community stakeholders. There were about 30 people on the line, and there was preliminary support for this idea of an economic recovery task force. So that is something that would be supported by a number of different organizations. It's not related specifically to EDL, but I think we have a role to play there. So the idea behind this task force would be to create a one-stop shop for information. So a new website that everybody can collectively put their resources to and create links to their different programs. As it says there, it would be to create one voice and allow us to speak on behalf of all of the issues that are raised by the business community. It's also about efficiency and effectiveness. There's no point in all of our different organizations duplicating efforts and not being efficient with the limited resources we have, particularly in this time. We need to move fast, we need to be bold, but we need to do it together in a coordinated way. We also don't want to reinvent the wheel. So High River, Fort McMurray, a number of different disasters in Alberta's history have taught us some important lessons, and there are lessons to be learned. So there's no point in not leveraging that experience. And I think there's also a real need for positive and upbeat communications in our community. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of concern, and I get that. We also need to acknowledge that. But if we can share stories like MOCHA Local in a forum and create other forums for success sharing, I think that will help mitigate some of those fears. So to be clear, this is not about the initial emergency response. That, quite frankly, is the city and the province's job. I think our role is to help facilitate the recovery. So this conversation is actually about what comes next. So to that end, and this might be a little hard for you to see, I'm hoping that that's visible to all of you folks on the line. This is what was proposed initially to the group today, that there would be an economic recovery task force that would have basically 6 main work streams. The first vertical, or the first work stream, is about creating a hub for online resources. So that would be a shared website that would be managed, that would contain links to different organizations, downloadable templates, a place for discussion, best practices, as well as webinars and online content. So the first vertical would be around creating that resource and compiling everything that's available so that businesses know they go to one place and they can access those tools. The second vertical is getting together all of the potential funding partners. So that's all through levels of government, but also our traditional lenders like banks and credit unions, as well as other non-traditional lenders like our community futures organizations. So the second vertical is about getting all of those groups together, again, ideally in one forum, in one coordinated way, so the business owners know how to get access to forgiveness on loans and different programs. Some of the announcements that we saw from the big banks today is that they are extending mortgages by up to 6 months in some commercial lending scenarios as well. But again, how do we get all of that information to businesses in a coordinated way? The third vertical is really around the creation at some point of a physical support center. So this would be a physical location somewhere in the city. Think of it much like an AMA help desk. You walk in and all of the service providers are there. You would have someone that would do triage, taking your file, and then direct you or connect you to someone. Various partners in the community could have a desk or a physical spot there. We'd have government representation, potentially, volunteers and representatives from different legal, accounting, and solvency firms to be there to provide advice. And, if the space is big enough, some of the actual training could occur at that location as well. The fourth proposed vertical is around emotional supports and a peer network. I think in business, sometimes we underestimate the emotional and psychological impact of chaos and having to close your doors and lay off your staff and having no cash flow. I can only imagine that would be stressful for just about everybody. So the idea would be to, again, coordinate some of the supports that already exist in our community, make them available to the business community, help understand what the issues are. And then the remaining 2 verticals, one is around workforce retention and development. So that would include Alberta Labor. We have a skill gap study that we are working on, thanks to Southgrow. I know Peter's on the line, as well as Lethbridge College. So it's about how do we pivot the work that's happening in that study to support this work, understand what gaps are. We need to look at assessing the market and the changes that have occurred. We need to understand the capability of our local training providers. And ultimately, we may have to relaunch campaigns like Success in Lethbridge from a number of years ago to recruit qualified workers back to this community. It's conceivable, particularly with the suspension of in-person classes at our post-secondaries, that many of these students will migrate back to home and may not return. So we need to be sort of planning for and thinking about 6 months or a year out from now, how do we retain people? And then the last vertical there is around some of the other barriers to business, advocating perhaps for tax issues or waivers. How does that work? Other regulatory issues that emerge. We're finding that some industries like truck drivers have been provided with exemptions under the Public Health Act, but because they're not universal, other subsectors are getting caught up in exclusions, and there are some things that are problematic. Admittedly, the provincial government's doing the best they can to move quickly. But we know we also need to collect great data on what's happening in the market and compile all of that. So this was the loose structure that I proposed this afternoon to, like I said, this group of 30 or so stakeholders. For the most part, there was pretty generous support. A number of people have reached out to me already in terms of, yes, they'd like to take on a role, they'd like to contribute something from their organization. And effectively, what I asked the group on the call today to do was to think about if there was a bubble on this chart where they could play a role. So for each one of the verticals, I would need a section leader to lead that work and work with program leaders, those are the bubbles below, and then ultimately assemble different groups of volunteers to manage each of those task forces. So, you know, at this point, just based on this chart, we're looking for a minimum of 30 volunteers to start up the infrastructure. And then, of course, we'll augment that with subject matter experts in each one of these fields. So the other piece that as a board, you should be aware of what I committed you to already. First of all, I put out the ask for section leaders, program leaders. I have indicated to that group that EDL would play a pivotal role in providing coordination support. So again, I don't think EDL owns this, but we do have staff. We do have the ability to pivot. And I mean, if we're the stewards of the economic strategy for the city, I can think of no better economic crisis or economic priority than this one. The rest of our business plan, frankly, doesn't matter unless we get the economy back on its legs. So we will, where we can, redirect available staff to support from an admin and coordination perspective. I do believe other community members and other community leaders need to own the programs and lead the programs. We will support, but I don't think it should come from us in terms of actually defining the needs. That's for each of our sectors to tell us. I have initially allocated $10,000 from reserves, and the board will know that I don't need to tell you about it until it reaches $25,000, and I don't actually need a motion until we reach $50,000, but here's a courtesy heads up. I've committed $10,000 on your behalf to this particular initiative, and a number of partners that were on the call today have indicated they would be able to financially contribute as well. Not necessarily matching, but every dollar helps. So there is some commitment from different organizations to do exactly that. Initially, we'll get a website stood up, we'll get some resources allocated. I do believe we need to move with velocity. There is a lot of stress. So my intent is to try and have some sort of media release about what this thing looks like by Friday. So I've committed that the rest of the group is sending me information back, and then they're going to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk about it hopefully tomorrow, and at least get a press release out in the media on Friday to say, don't worry, stuff is going to come. There will be support. We're here to help you. And at the same time, manage expectations, because as I said before, this is about months. Thank you, Patty, for someone wanting to get in here. I can't see that from here. This is about months. This is not about weeks, and the recovery will take years. Based on modeling we've seen in the past, based on other disasters that are tangible, this one is much bigger. We are talking about years. So we need a structure, we need a process, and we need people. And I'm very grateful to our community partners, some of which are on the line today, some of which are in the room, and some of which are elsewhere but couldn't join us this evening. But I'm very grateful for the explosion of my inbox following that call of interest and offers for help. So as a board, you know, this is something we'll keep you up to date on. If you, on behalf of your sector, are aware of issues or things that we need to flag, you know, please don't wait till the next board meeting. Feel free to funnel that to my inbox. And if you're a particular organization or you're aware of other organizations that can contribute either experts, accountants, lawyers, those kinds of things to support, or perhaps you have a line on a physical location, or if you just have a great resource or some other information that would be helpful to the broader business community, again, we'll start to collect and funnel that so we can make that available. So I guess I would open the line in a gradual and metered way. If there were, and in the room here, if there are any questions or feedback on this, I'm just going to move over and page up so you can see the chart. This was off the top of Trevor's brain at about 10 o'clock last night, so I am certainly open to people picking holes in it. But given the urgency and the importance of this issue, I thought, since I have you as a captive audience, now would be a good time to entertain any ideas you might have. So let me just flip screens here. Any thoughts or comments, Ian, here in the room?
So, is there a reason that the support center is going to be physical in person as opposed to just an online or telephone?
That's a great question. So there was a question about why a physical support center at some point. Obviously, we can't do that yet until social distancing rules are lightened, as opposed to having just a virtual presence. And the feedback from economic developers of Alberta, based on their experience in other disasters, is that people need that social connection and some of that networking. And sometimes having a physical place allows them a way to go and capture resources that is not always accessible online, particularly for some of our traditional businesses who may not have a great online presence or comfort with technology. I mean, Angel's become an expert and she's here in the room, so I can pick on her a little bit. But, you know, if I said, okay, we're going to do everything going forward and every resource you might need is only going to be available online, in the past, that's been proven to be a bit challenging. So that's the thought process. But again, I think that's at least a couple of months away, but it will take some time to find a place and stand that up and think about what that looks like. Great question, though. Thank you. Other thoughts, either in the room or online, about this concept and this being a part of EDL's mandate? Silence is acceptance, just so you know. Aaron's just pulling up the chat to provide some comments. Oh, yeah, Tim, you see you online?
Yeah.
Any comments?
Hey, I can't really comment so much from a board perspective, but I did reach out to a couple of marketers locally, talking about something similar, not so much on the business-facing side, but more on the public-facing side. But obviously, the two are very closely related. So I've already sent you an email about how the two will plug in together, as well as offering any of support that we can do. And then as for the physical one-stop shop, again, I sent you an email with some spots that we can initially do, but that's about all I have.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
So Peter's comment was very likely that South State region has resources, but our manpower is diverse across South. You can probably bring money to the equation and likely manpower more essential. South Dakota has already had conversations about how.
So thank you, Peter, for those comments in the chat box. Aaron was just reading them to the rest of the room about potentially a financial contribution from Southgrow, as well as helping compile resources across the region. And I guess I would mention, you know, explicitly, because we are tax supported by the municipality, obviously our focus is the city of Lethbridge. However, to be candid, the region is also, the health of the region is also the health of the city in terms of how money flows. So I do believe there's a strong regional component to this. And there are economic development types across the region that are networked. I know Linda Erickson is on the line, and Linda's our provincial government representative in that area. And I believe, again, we can help make sure that the work that we're doing is shared out into the region, and then that there's some coordination and support there as well. So thanks, Peter. We'll definitely get back to you on how that could look like. I guess I should ask the question, is there anyone violently opposed? Is there anyone that has a concern with this being a pivot in our business plan, or anyone that sees this as not our mandate before I move forward? Again, hearing none, I will take that as blessing to move forward. So again, I think it's important for you to be aware of what we're working on. We will, of course, keep the board up to date. These are interesting times. I will skip the rest of my diatribe that I had planned for this particular segment. Two things I will point out. First of all, I want to say thank you to the EDL staff team. I'm the one that appears in the newspaper. I'm often the one that appears at meetings before you, but at the end of the day, we all know I don't do your work. I get to show up in shiny suits most of the time, but I sincerely appreciate the hard work of the whole team, both the downtown crew and the Tech Connect crew. They moved very, very quickly, starting last Thursday, to move our entire operations to work from home. They shifted, honestly, the axis of the earth. And at the same time, I don't think we've missed a client meeting. I don't think a tenant in our building has been disrupted. We had originally in our budget proposed rate increases for our tenants at Tech Connect. that were to take place on April the 1st. So the board would have approved that budget. We have temporarily delayed and deferred that rate increase. We'll be holding rents flat for at least until May 1st. And I will come back to the board with some recommendations and your thoughts at our April board meeting. At this point, and that's the second point, the April board meeting is on April the 15th. Unless restrictions change, and I don't anticipate that they will by then, we will plan for a Zoom meeting for our board meetings. So it will be done in exactly the same format as this. For those members of the executive and board that want to physically be at Tech Connect, up to as much as our spatial requirements will permit, we'll do that here. And we will broadcast via Zoom for everybody else. But again, our next scheduled board meeting for all of the new board members is Wednesday, April the 15th. Regular time frame, 8 till 10, since it's in your calendars anyway. No change there, we'll keep it convenient. But we will send out a link and we'll do it in this format unless things change. So with that, that brings us to the conclusion of our AGM. I thank you for your attendance. I really appreciate the fact that we had quorum, so we don't have to do this again next week. Again, you're welcome to email me suggestions, questions, or concerns. If there is any questions, you're certainly welcome to unmute your mic now and speak up. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. This is the audience participation part of the program. All right, I see a hand with Sandra, so we have a motion to adjourn. Thanks again, appreciate it. This is the conclusion of our 2019 annual general meeting. Take care, everybody.